Welcome to another Okie Dokie Tech video. I've been watching YouTubes of people with 10-inch server racks by DeskPi and some others, and even some that were homemade, and I decided that was a good idea because of having several SBC single board computers, Raspberry Pis, Orange Pis, Raxa X4, and various things like that. So I thought it would be nice to have a place to put all of that. But rather than buy it, we had leftover balusters from my husband building a deck out back. So I've got a bunch of these pieces of aluminum and decided to make this one from aluminum and ABS sheets. The ABS sheets are black, but I discovered I could have gotten them in other colors, yellow, green, blue, red, orange, probably others as well. But anyway, I got black, and it goes with the black balusters. I'll let you see what it looks like. As I spin it around to this side, you can see the connections on the monitor, power and HDMI. If I put in USB, and if these were Windows machines, it's a touch screen, but the touch screen does not work with Linux anyway. And on this side, not much to look at. But here we have a Raspberry Pi 5 in a Argon 40 case, the large case that I did a video of recently. This is the Raspberry Pi 4B in a DeskPi Pro case. This is just a network switch, 8-port. I don't need 8 ports, but I got them if I want them. And then this is an Orange Pi 5 Plus. And down here is an HDMI switch to switch between the computers that are using the screen as well as the keyboard and the mouse. And then down here I have a Raspberry Pi 5 that is not connected to the monitor or keyboard and screen, so I just use VNC to get into that one. Now, spinning around to the back, I have put in Ethernet coupler right here and glued it to the ABS to make it easy to plug and unplug Ethernet. And I have a electric plug here. I installed just a jack for ordinary computer cable. And these have holes through them so that I can route the wires up through here. And that's pretty much all there is to see. I'll show you my process for making it with the aluminum balusters and the ABS shortly. The first thing that I did was to draw out a little sketch of what I wanted to make and decide how wide, how deep, how tall I wanted it, and also to calculate some measurements according to what I wanted to fit within my rack. So this is my rough guide. It's not to scale, but it gives me a working plan to work by. The material that I'm using is aluminum pickets left over from building a deck. They're nice and sturdy. And one of the things I like about them, let me go get a piece. If you look down in the end, they have channels where I can slide little pieces of metal to hold things in place. Using an ordinary chop saw, such as carpenters use, you can cut aluminum because it is a soft metal without damaging your blade. This is a carbide tipped blade. That easily. Another tip is to use wood clamps to clamp on a piece of wood, such as this piece right here. And I can cut as many pieces exactly the same length as I want to by doing that. My rack is going to start with 2 sides, and each of these sides has 2 uprights, 2 bottom pieces, and 2 cross pieces. This leaves me a handle at the top to pick it up. These pieces here are measure 7 9/16. These are 9 inches from tip to tip, and the long ones are 16 3/8 tip to tip. So now all I have to do is join them and then put some sides on these, which I'm going to use some ABS plastic sheet that I ordered off of Amazon. Now I'm just going to use some tin snips to cut little 1/2-inch strips that I'm going to use to connect these corners. You can probably buy these somewhere, but I have scraps of this stuff laying around anyway. And here's my first little strip, if I ever get through it. Ugh. There we go. And I'm going to bend that into a L and then use it to hold that corner. I've cut a few of these strips, and I use this tool here. I'm not sure what it's called. I call it the flattenator. Maybe somebody else knows what it's really called. They use it in doing siding and gutter work, stuff like that. But it works good for straightening out the metal. And then I have a metal bending brake over here that I'm going to bend these into L's. Now to join the metal, I'm just going to slide these little L's in at the corner on this one and at the corner on this one and put them together. And that will hold it rather nicely, but I'll eventually put pop rivets to reinforce those corners. Now to connect these cross pieces, I need to do something different than my L brackets. So let's shove that up there. And another leftover from doing our deck is this, handrails. So let's just take these out, and these will fit inside those to hold them in place. So I'm going to remove all of these for my cross pieces. Now, to assemble this, I've put these L's that I cut out of sheet metal. They're 1/2 inch wide, and they fit into these little slots, and you can push it together and get a nice tight corner. So that's how the corners were made. And then I have this that goes in the ends of these. It has a screw that goes through the middle, because you can see the middle is hollow. So you put a screw in there, screw it into this side, and then this will hold the rails once you push it together. And then once the whole thing is assembled, I will drop in, oops, sorry about that, bumped the camera. Drop in that panel, and I had set these cross pieces down a little lower than the rest of it because I wanted this to be recessed. So that's how this is going. So now I have all of the pop rivets in, holding the panel that's made out of ABS, and on each of these corners there are 2 pop rivets. So the side panels are fully assembled other than shelf supports. To tie the 2 side panels together, I've put some cross pieces here, here, and here, front and back. And I've also put some ABS that's cut and riveted to tie it all together so that it doesn't fall back apart. And inside here are some aluminum strips that I found. I think they're some kind of flooring transition strips, but that's not what I'm using them for. I'm using them to put my shelves in. So I cut 3 shelves out of the ABS that look like this. They have a number of holes across the back for cables to go through, and they just slide in. There we go. One of the shelves was made to accommodate the Raspberry Pi 4, and it looks like this. And once I put in the hold down clamps, and I put a strip so that it wouldn't push back when I use the USB ports. So this will go in up here on the top. And a similar shelf is this one for the network switch. It also has hold down clamps, holes for all of the cables that might go through, and an Ethernet coupler right there. You'll see what that's for later. But these clamps will come and hold the devices in place once I put them in there. So there's all three shelves in place, but their devices are not yet installed. A lot of the metal work is started by making a paper pattern, actually more like a cardboard pattern, not corrugated, but thin cardboard, such as cereal boxes made out of. I test the pieces and see if they're going to function right. And if they do function right, then I can transfer the pattern that I've made onto metal and be able to complete the project. Using my cardboard prototype as a pattern, I just lay it over the cut piece of metal, fold back where the metal is going to bend and trace it with a pencil. Then I will flip it over and get the line on the other side. Also notice that there's a pivot hole for this thing to open and close, you might say. Now we're going to go ahead and bend the little brackets. Bending metal is a little tedious, so I'm speeding through this section. And you need to clamp down your big piece of steel when everything is exactly in position. Bring up the handle, you get a nice sharp bend. Then you're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. But as I said, it is a little tedious getting it in position. The finished Pi 4 shelf looks like this on the front, and flip it over here and you see the hold down clamps that'll keep the Pi from coming out of it. And as I showed you before, it just slides in these aluminum side supports. This is my pretty terrible looking power situation. A bunch of wall warts plugged into a flat surge protector. Fortunately, I can shove it all up inside of here, making sure not to unplug anything. Not an easy task. And then I can put a cover over it, put screws in it, and I won't have to look at it anymore. I decided that I did not want a big old long cable sticking out of this notch, so what I've done was cut that big old cable off, and unfortunately the wires were not color coded. All three wires were white, but I used a continuity tester and help from my husband, who's a licensed master electrician, and sussed out where the wires go. And then I decided, instead of soldering them, that I would put them together with these butt connectors. What they do is they allow me to make changes later. And I can just stuff it all back in there and put the screws in, and it's going to look like that as soon as I get the screws in. I've also used ABS glue to glue on a connector here. This is just a coupler actually, so that I don't have to reach inside of here to plug and unplug the cable for Ethernet. All I got to do is plug it in from right here, and that is a lot more convenient than having to reach inside of there. And as far as power, I just use an ordinary computer cable, plug that in here, and turn it off and on with this switch. I have this 10-inch monitor that I've had for quite a while, and I'm going to use that with this build. And fortunately, it has a large bezel around the edge, because what I did was I made a bracket that the monitor sits down in, and then put two L-shaped brackets riveted to that, holes for the speaker, because it does have a built-in speaker. And this will sit on top like that, and the monitor sits down in it like that. And there are screws that go in the side to keep it from falling. This is what the finished product looks like. Let me see if I can get over here without kicking my stand that the camera is on. There's the front, side, the back. Oh, I forgot to plug in Ethernet. Everything has Wi-Fi, so I still need to plug in Ethernet. And the other side as well. And I put a monitor up here. It's a 10-inch touchscreen, but it doesn't work with Linux. And besides that, I would have needed another USB cable, which I didn't put in. And when I want to switch between the different things in here, this one is the orange pie right now, but if I push that, it will change to the top one, number 1. Push it again, it changes to the Raspberry Pi 4B, oh, which isn't on. I gotta turn it on. There we go. And push it again to go to the orange Pi again. The other Raspberry Pi 5 down here, I just use VNC to deal with that one, because I've got a keyboard and mouse. This is made by Logitech, and the mouse is able to do 3 different devices, and so is the keyboard. So right now it's on number 2. So I push number 2 and push number 2 on here, and then I can move my mouse around. So that lets me use Raspberry Pi 5, Raspberry Pi 4B, Orange Pi, and through VNC, the Raspberry Pi 5 in the smaller case. Idle power consumption is hovering around 16-17 watts. Running stress NG on all 4 Pis is resulting in about 42 to 43 watts power usage. After I said that it was a finished product, I decided to add a couple more things. For one thing, if you look in here, there was an unused plug but the area there was too small to fit any more wall warts in there. So what I did was took the other end of the cable that I cut off of the surge protector, because it had a nice flat plug, and wired it up to a receptacle. That's a single receptacle. So now I've got a 120 outlet as well as my plug to plug in a computer power cable. Also, I want to change this white 20 amp receptacle to a black 15 amp receptacle, but that won't happen until I go to Lowe's. And finally, I've added a DVD drive here. Why? Because I had one, and also because I have lots of CDs and DVDs with pictures and different things that I wanted to keep, videos from vacations and things like that. And I have a CD-ROM game pack CD, 40 VGA games. I'm going to see if I can get that working with DOSBox. Sorry about the reflection on the screen there. It's a dreary day out. It's a little too dark not to have any lights on, but that's a reflection of the overhead light. But this is my probably finished product, except that I can't help but think there's room to put more things in there. I thought about putting that. It's paperclip holder because it fits there, or a clock, or a USB drive with an NVMe drive inside of it. All kinds of other things could go in here, but I'll never finish this video if I don't stop. So this is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I've enjoyed making it. And if you would, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I should see you sooner next time, because this took about 3 weeks to make this video, so it's been a while since I posted anything, but should be having something come up a little quicker next time.